What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Berto for the $15.50 donation to the channel via the Cash App. Much respect to brother Berto for showing love to this channel. He's been subscribed to Too Raw for TV, I think, since around 2019. So he is becoming a long-time subscriber. He is a historian. He is a student of the game. And he does not like idolatry of players. Fanboyism, that's not his forte. I believe that he loves the NBA of the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. A lot of us do. Um, doesn't trash the game, but he definitely has his uh, his era that he prefers. But he likes sports in general. And I like some of his comments, man. He's very knowledgeable and has a photographic memory of certain sequences and events. So I salute him for showing love to this channel. And to anybody want to show love to this channel, if you choose to, you can do so in the links in the description box below via the PayPal or the Cash App or in the pinned comment in the comment section below. Now I want to talk about Gary Russell Jr. Okay, Gary Russell Jr., after a near 2-year absence from the ring, fought last night against a game opponent by the name of Mark Magsayow, and he lost. He lost his WBC featherweight title, 126-pound WBC featherweight title. He lost by a majority decision, and it was a very close fight. But this is the thing. Even though Gary Russell Jr. took his loss like a man, he didn't make excuses like we often see with fighters nowadays. It was quite obvious that he was fighting it from a disadvantage. This disadvantage was not just from ring rust. This disadvantage was not just from, having a lot to carry burden-wise mentally. The loss of his brother back in 2020 due to a heart attack. His father's struggles with diabetes, which has led to the amputation of his foot. But he also was fighting with one arm. He had suffered a shoulder injury a couple weeks ago in training, and he re-injured that shoulder earlier in the fight and was essentially fighting with one arm. Okay, he was fighting with one arm, and the fight was still competitive. And Max Sayal won by definition because he was busier. But this has been my thing, man. This has always been my thing about close fights, really close fights. I've always heard the mantra that to take a champion's belt away from him, you have to definitively beat him. It can't be like a questionable thing. It has to be a pretty definitive ass whooping. That was some of the controversy behind Michael Spinks defeating Larry Holmes, because some people thought that that fight was so close that it should have stayed in Larry Holmes' possession, the belt. You know, um, so like when Jersey Joe Walcott fought Joe Louis back in 1947, even though some ringside observers thought that Walcott did enough to win, they gave the belt to Joe Louis. But Gary Russell Jr. didn't get that type of respect, for whatever reason. Another thing that bothers me about the post-fight interviews was when Mark Magsayow was asked whether he would give Gary Russell Jr. a rematch. He said, "Well, I can fight anybody now. I'm the champion." First of all, motherfucker, how do you feel as a fighter beating a one-armed man? You really feel secure about yourself as a fighter, beating a fighter at such disadvantage? Don't you want to, for your pride, for your dignity, for your own self-respect, don't you want to fight someone at their 100% to really get a gauge of how great you are? But no, you're going to take a title and fight someone. It's not your fault that he hurt himself. That's not what I'm saying. But as a so-called champion, how can you look at yourself in the mirror knowing that you won that fucking belt because of a decision that went your way because most likely he was not at 100%. You got the decision, Maxiyab, but you didn't beat him. You didn't really beat Gary Russell Jr. out there. If he had two good hands, he would have whooped your goddamn ass. So they should make him fucking get a rematch. They should make him fucking rematch Gary Russell Jr. And you already got these fucking race trolls out here talking about how Gary Russell Jr. is whining, he accepted defeat. Shut the fuck up. How many times did we see Manny Pacquiao fucking cry and whine and blame some, I didn't swim in Lake Ucadana or whatever the fuck it is, some bullshit. He always fucking crying about some reason why he lost a fight. How many times have we seen Lomachenko cry and whine, when something didn't go his way? And you can make an argument that Gary Russell Jr. was put in a situation where he was being set up to fail. You know, and that you got to look at the people who put this all together, put them in a situation where it would be very difficult. The most difficult situation possible. Most guys who haven't fought that long, for that long, they get tune-ups. They get easy tune-ups. You know, remember when Ali came back and fought in 1970? His first couple of fights were, for his level of fighting, easy tune-ups. Why? Because he'd been out of the ring for 3 years. But it is what it is, man. That's my thoughts about Gary Russell Jr. Um, this is in my opinion, this is a temporary setback for a major comeback, I guess. But tell me what you guys think.